Hey everyone, this is Kelsey Balt. Welcome to Devoted Cowgirl, a podcast where I talk about my life as a Christian horsewoman. Every week we'll dive into topics like growing your faith, improving your barrel racing, and how those things intertwine in my life. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm super glad you're here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Devoted Cowgirl. I know I missed a week. Maybe it was 2. I don't know. However, it will be 2 weekends ago now when you guys are listening to this. I accomplished a goal on Stella that I always knew was going to happen. I wasn't sure how soon it was going to happen. And that is, I took her 5A in Western Horseman of Oregon. And so, for those, I know I have people that listen that aren't from Oregon and have no idea what WHO or Western Horseman of Oregon is, but we run patterned speed events, and in our association there are time breaks, and so we have A, B, C, and D classes in each of the 5 individual events that we run, which is barrels, poles, figure 8, individual flags, and keyhole. And so when we run those, when you get a new horse, you start in the D class, and once you run 3 times that are faster than the class you're currently rated in, you move up to the next class. And so the ultimate end-all be-all goal is, well, technically the ultimate end-all be-all is to go Supreme 5A, not there. However, the next end-all be-all goal is to take your horse 5A, and that means they're rated A in all 5 individual events. And so to go A in barrels on our pattern, which is a 40 by 60 with a 30-foot between the timers and the first barrel, you have to be faster than a 15.0. So any 14-second time will get you into the A class. And then for individual flags, anything faster than an 8.25 will get you in the A class. So you have to do that at least 3 times. Keyhole, it's anything faster than a 7.25. Figure 8 is faster than a 10.7, and poles is faster than a 21.5. And so 4 years ago now, I had got my last run on Slinky to take him 5A. And then 2 weekends ago, going into the weekend, I needed 2 keyhole times and a pole bending time. And on Saturday, I got 1 of my keyhole times, and on Sunday, I got my last pole bending time and my final keyhole time. And it was kind of kismet, I guess, because I didn't know it at the time, but I did it on the same day that I had picked up Stella 6 years prior. And it was 5 days before our birthdays. If you don't know, Stella and I share a birthday just several years apart, but we have the same birthday. And so 5 days before our birthday, 6 years after I went and picked her up to the day, we got our final runs to go 5A. And it was so exciting, and it made me reflect on how much I've grown as a horse person between starting WHO and now, and just all that I've learned in life. And I wanted to record a podcast because there's a lot of people out there that have money and are able to send their horse off to a trainer and take consistent lessons from a trainer. And if their horse is naughty, they can send them home with the trainer that weekend and go pick them up a couple of weeks later. And they have the funds to be able to do that. And I never had that. I still don't have that. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have the talent and the drive to learn how to do that, because I've never had the option. I've always had to make my own horses because I couldn't afford to buy one that was already made. And so I want to touch on a couple subjects during this episode, and hopefully I have enough time before I get to work this morning to get it all in. But the first one I want to touch on is you can do it. And I know not everyone has the same talent level and ability level, but if you work hard, you would be amazed at how far you can take a horse that isn't bred to run barrels or whatever it might be that you do. Take Slinky, for instance. His daddy is a very not well-known halter horse in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not even sure how many babies he has, but he's a very small-time stud, now a gelding. And his mom, basically, I'm sure there's names on his papers that are noticeable to somebody. I am not one of those somebodies. So, for all intents and purposes, Slinky is a nobody. And he wasn't bred to be a barrel horse. If you look at him, I mean, he looks like he could be kind of racy. His daddy's a halter horse. And he went 5A. I will say he barely scraped by the skin of his teeth in some of them. However, we went 5A. And it took us a long time to get there. And I honestly never thought that was going to be a thing until I started running at WHO. And that just goes to show that you are only as good as your competition. And so if you want to get better, but all you're doing is competing against low-level competitors, you're going to stay at that level and only be able to compete with those people. If you want to step up your game, find somewhere where people are riding and performing on that next level, because you will automatically rise to the occasion whether you're actually thinking about it or not. And so I was very fortunate when I bought Stella. I had sold a gelding that I had done all the training on. I got him for $200, rode him for, how long did I have him? 7 or 8 years. Got him going really nice and sold him for a decent chunk of change that allowed me to buy Stella. And Stella I bought for $4,500 as a 2-year-old, and that was the most I'd ever spent on a horse, and I thought it was insane. However, she is very much bred to be a barrel horse, and I wanted the opportunity to see what I could do with a horse that was bred to do what I do. Because up until that point, I had never had that opportunity. I had bought Slinky, my mom bought Slinky for $700, and he, as we talked about, was pretty much a nobody on his papers. Then I bought Harley, who was $200, and he had some good cutting horse, cow horse bloodlines. He had smart little Lena on his papers. But still not really bred to be a barrel horse. He was very talented and quick-footed. And so when I sold him, I was finally in a position where I could afford to buy a bred to be a barrel horse. I still had to make her myself because I didn't have the money to buy a finished one. And by that point in my life, I kind of just enjoyed riding the young ones. And I hadn't had a chance to ride a baby in a while, so I prefer to make my own horses anyways. And so, I guess in the roundabout way, I just want to tell you guys that you can do it on your own. And the way that you can do it on your own is to become a sponge. Do not pretend that you know everything because you're doing well where you're at. because you never know everything there is to know about horses. You can always learn from somebody. And so what I want y'all to take away from this is, if someone that is more experienced than you offers you advice, take it. And while you might think it's dumb or it doesn't apply to your current situation, take that tool that they just gave you and put it in your toolbox, because you never know when you might need that tool. There are things that I learned when I was younger, going to lessons, the very few lessons I went to, that didn't apply to me at the time and didn't help that horse, but now it has helped my current horses. And all the horses that I was fortunate enough to ride when I was working for a horse trainer, those horses that I was riding didn't have the issues that my horses at the time had. But the lessons that I learned on them have allowed me to have the knowledge to fix issues that arise with my current horses, because I learned that lesson when I did. And so become a sponge. Watch all the videos on Between the Reins or training, Barrel Horse Tips, whatever it is, barrelracingtips.com, or there's so many websites out there, some sponsored by different associations or ran by professional barrel racers. Find them, watch the videos, learn from them. If you can go to clinics, and don't just commit to one clinician and repeatedly go to their clinics. That's great to be loyal. You can always learn more from someone and build upon stuff, but also broaden your horizons and go to clinics put on by different clinicians, so you can get different viewpoints and perspectives, and you can cobble together your own program that works for you. And so, I used to play basketball, and so I remember when LeBron James first came on the scene in the NBA, everyone said, oh, he's going to be the next Michael Jordan. And his attitude was one of, no, I'm going to be the first LeBron James. And I say that, one, be confident, on a completely unrelated note, be confident, but two, take what you learn from everyone in your life, in your sphere of influence, and put together your own program and what works for you and your horses, because it's going to be different for everybody. You're not going to have the same way of doing things as the trainer you go to every week. And so it's completely okay to take the stuff that they teach you and tweak it and add in some stuff from another clinician or trainer and make your program. And so while I rode with Amanda Marriott and Mike Marriott for a long time, and I've been to Ryan Lovendahl clinics and I've been to a Paul Humphrey clinic, I don't say that I use the Paul Humphrey has the breaking the mold method. I am not a breaking the mold method person. That is not my method. I don't train using the Marriott Performance Horses method. I don't train using the Ryan Lovendahl method. I train using the Kelsey Bolt program. And that program is bits and pieces from every person I've ever met that has offered me advice. Sometimes it's from my mom, who's not a barrel racer. Sometimes it's from an NFR qualifier, because I heard her say something to me or somebody else, and that piece of advice stuck, and I try to use that. Sometimes it's from Fallon Taylor, something that she said in her YouTube videos that really stuck with me. And so what I'm trying to get at is what I said at the beginning of this soapbox discussion, is be a sponge and learn from everybody, because everybody has something to teach you. Keep an open mind and don't shut it out. Try it once. If it doesn't work, put it in your pocket to use for later. That's totally okay. That's what I used to tell my kids when I coached high school equestrian team. You might have a trainer that's teaching you something, but right now we're at a practice where I'm taking my time out of my day to teach you things, and so at least try it. You can try it here, and if you want to go home and never practice it again, I don't know any better, but at least try it here. And so I'm a firm believer of, if it's safe, try everything once. And if it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, tuck it away for later. Maybe it'll work on a future horse. So, on a really terrible transition, the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is remembering to celebrate your wins. Because it can be very hard when you are head down grinding, always trying to get to the next level and be a little bit better and get 1% better and 1% better. It can be very hard to remember how far you've come and really realize where you're at in your life and celebrate the fact that at this point in time you're likely better than you've ever been before. And it is a exciting and, for me, very humbling experience to recognize how far I've come from the little kid that went to her very first play day, or the little kid that did 4-H on a horse that we were celebrating a 23-second pole run, but also would run off on her first barrel and didn't know anything and didn't know how to fix it. And now I'm in a position to help others fix their issues. And I'm in a very fortunate position that I have a 1D barrel horse and I have 2 5A WHO horses. And I'm leading the average in WHO for interstate qualifications in barrels, and I'm sitting second in poles, and I'm in the top 10 in all but one of the events, individual events on my horses. And so I want to just tell you guys, if you feel like you're stuck in a rut or in a hole, keep grinding and don't give up. Because one day you're going to look up from the grind and realize how much success you've had, and it's going to blow you away. And you're not going to know what to do with it. Because you've worked your buns off for so long, it's hard to switch to the mindset that doesn't say, I've made it, because you never want to switch to that mindset and be in a point where you feel like you're done and you're not going any farther. But one day you're going to get to a point that you're going to realize that this is the time that you have been dreaming about and striving for so long. And when you get to that point, you will realize that all of the late nights, the freezing cold rides, the hit barrels, the no times, your horse is running off, your horse is checking out, the long hauls and the early mornings, and all of the stall picking and poop shoveling that you have done, and the walls you've beat your head against and finally climbed over or broke through, are all worth it to get to the point that you are at. And coming from someone on the other side of the struggle, it's worth it. And every roller coaster dip and dive of training horses is worth it. So, if I can encourage anybody that might be in a slump, keep going. And find help from somebody, whether that's me. I'm more than happy if you're beating your head against a wall and struggling with something with your horses, reach out to me. I can watch videos, talk through it with you. More than happy to help you with that. Find a trainer in your area, someone different than you've gone to, or go to a clinic if you have the opportunity. I highly recommend Ryan Lovendahl. Paul Humphrey has great drills if you want to go to one of his clinics. I've been to those two. If you have the opportunity to ride with Ashley Schaefer, I've never ridden with her, but I would be there in a heartbeat if she was in this area. So, if you're in a slump, don't go changing everything. Don't change your bridle, your saddle, your boots, your hair. Just find maybe a video of a different drill to do, or go to a clinic. But don't give up. Because, like I said, one day you're going to look up from the grind and realize that you're in the spots that you've been grinding to get to. And when you get to that point, I want you to stop grinding for a little bit and just enjoy it. And go have fun every time you swing a leg on your horse, because you made them who they are today. And that is, hands down, my favorite part about making my own horses is when somebody you don't know asks you who trained your horse. You can smile and say, I did. And that is the best feeling in the world. Knowing that with the help of others, you have done this all on your own. And so this is my shout out to the kids and the adults that can't afford the big time trainers and can't afford to send their horses out. You got this. Keep striving for that progress, and don't worry about perfection, because you're never going to get there, but you can always get 1% better every single time. And with that, I am going to leave you guys until next week. If you are running this weekend, strive for that 1% better. Even if you're not, get 1% better. Strive for progress, not perfection. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Devoted Cowgirl. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends so we can reach more people. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week for another episode of Devoted Cowgirl. See ya!